The 7 deadly disability exam sins. I recently did a day of disability exams, and I had an opportunity to see all of these 7 sins in one day. These are all things that will reduce your chances of getting a good disability exam report and therefore having your disability claim approved. In this video, I'm going to talk about the 7 sins, give some examples, and explain how you can avoid them. Hello, I'm John Foster. I'm a medical doctor who does Social Security disability exams. And as usual, everything I say reflects my own opinions based on my own experience and study, and not the opinions of the Social Security Administration or any other medical body. Now, the first sin is arriving late. Arriving on time at the right place is your responsibility. Traffic wasn't invented yesterday. Traffic is not an excuse. Getting lost is not an excuse. You've had quite some time to prepare for the exam. Make sure you know where it is. If you're not sure, do a dry run before the day of your exam. Here's my policy. My schedule is very tight when I do disability exams. If somebody shows up more than 15 minutes late, I tell them that they've missed their appointment time. If they want, they can wait in the waiting room, and if there's a no-show, somebody doesn't show up for their exam at all, I'll fit them in. But if there are no no-shows, they'll go home at the end of the day without their exam being done and will have to reschedule. Or they can go home immediately and reschedule with Social Security. For an example, I had a person who showed up 35 minutes late. Totally missed their exam time. Fortunately for them, the next scheduled patient was a no-show, so they did get to be seen. The bottom line is, make sure you know where you're going and leave with plenty of time so that if there's traffic, you'll still get there early. The second deadly sin, talking about everything related to your medical issues besides how they limit your ability to work. Talk about every doctor's visit you've had in the last 5 years. I saw Dr. Jones and he did a blood test and he thought I might have this. But then I saw Dr. Smith and he did a different blood test and thought I might have that. Or talk about your condition in the future. I'm going to have this test in a month or see that doctor in 2 months. Or talk about your test results or your diagnoses without going into how your problems make it difficult for you to work. If you tell me you've had a stroke, or that you have sciatica, or that you have lupus, that suggests some possibilities to me, but it does not tell me what you can and cannot do when it comes to work-related abilities. Remember, disability is based on your work-related limitations that you have now, not that you had 5 years in the past or that you might have in the future. When I can't get people to give me the information I need, I sometimes ask them, if an employer calls you this afternoon and says they have a job for you, can you start tomorrow morning? Could you take it or not? And if not, why not? The next deadly sin is embellishing or exaggerating or making up your story. Unfortunately, some of the people that disability exam doctors see are lying. They're pretending to be disabled when they're not. And because of that, we always have to keep a level of suspicion. Here's an example. I had a person come in and tell me that they couldn't use their right arm at all because of severe shoulder pain. The problem was they came into the exam room carrying a large backpack that was obviously stuffed with their right arm. That immediately, to me, told me that they were an exaggerator. You must maintain your credibility. Tell your story exactly as it is. Don't exaggerate or embellish. The fourth deadly sin is not describing how your medical problems limit your ability to work. Again, disability depends on having medical problems that limit your ability to work. When it comes to work-related abilities, what I want to know is what can you do, what can't you do, and what can you do but with difficulty, and if so, with how much difficulty. And this is so common that there are numerous examples, and I see this every time I do this with disability exams. And the same with deadly sin number 5, which is being vague about your limitations. Say things like, I can't do heavy lifting, I can't sit too long, I can't stand too long, I can't walk too far. But when the doctor asks you, okay, what weight can you lift? How long can you sit? How far can you walk? Have no idea. I'm not going to sit there with a stopwatch and measure how long somebody can sit in a chair. I don't have the time or inclination to do it. You should have already figured that out at home before your exam. If you haven't, I'm going to have to guess, and doctors are very bad at guessing, just like doctors are very bad at predicting the future. I can't really guess exactly how long or how much of any of those things you can do. If I had a nickel for every person who told me, for example, I can't lift too heavy, and then when I tried to pin them down, they were clueless, I'd be able to build a castle out of nickels. The next deadly sin, the 6th, is leaving out important work-related limitations. People find this somewhat hard to believe, but almost every day I do disability exams, I find at least one person with some significant limitations that they never mention to Social Security or to me. Here's 2 examples from my most recent day. I had a person who'd been in a bad car accident, wound up losing a leg and having a fairly severe brain injury, and that was all they told me. But when I examined them, they had trouble with both their shoulders, couldn't lift their arms above their head, which is important for Social Security. They also had one arm had a ruptured biceps tendon, and then they had very poor eyesight in both eyes. Not blind, but enough to significantly limit their ability to work. I had a second person who came in and told me he had problems with the circulation in both of his legs. And sure enough, on his exam, he had significant problems with his circulation. But he also had nerve damage in both his hands. Some of the fingers on both hands were numb and didn't move properly, a very significant limitation for Social Security. Before your exam, I suggest you consider your whole body from the top of your head to the tips of your toes and make a note of everything that's gone wrong or doesn't work right. It might be the difference between your disability application being approved or denied. And the 7th deadly sin, and probably the worst one, is exaggerating or fabricating or pretending during the exam itself. Again, you must maintain your credibility because disability doctors always have to be looking for signs of pretending. If they find one, they're likely to doubt everything. As an example, this day I had a person come in with several problems, and some of them didn't sound real when he was describing them, and then he had some funny findings on his exam that was making me wonder, but I still wasn't sure. But the clincher was when I went to test the strength in his legs. He was sitting on the exam table with his legs hanging off the side. I put my hands behind his ankles and I asked him to bend his knees and press against my hands as hard as possible, which he did so with one leg, which he claimed he wasn't having trouble with. But with the other leg, instead of pulling his leg back, he pushed it forward. Now let me tell you, the way the human body is wired, it is absolutely impossible. There is no medical condition known to mankind where when you try to bend your knee, instead you straighten it out. The only way that can happen is pretending, and that clinched the diagnosis in my mind that he was pretending, and that's what I put in my report. So if you want to have the best chance of having your disability application approved, show up on time. You can give a brief lead up to where you are now, but spend most of the time describing how your medical problems now limit your ability to work. Don't exaggerate, embellish, or pretend. Don't be vague, be specific. I can walk 100 feet, I can lift 15 pounds, etc. And finally, don't leave out any limitations that would increase the chances of your disability application being approved. Well, I hope this has been helpful, and as always, remember, if it happens, it's possible.